If you're thinking about making a new lead magnet in 2026, please don't make another PDF. Like, if you are a meditation teacher or a coach or breathwork coach, or you do what I do, you're a hypnotherapist, just make one audio recording and make it a private podcast, and you're done.
Welcome, everybody, to another case study episode of Launch Your Private Podcast, one of the last few we're recording of the year. I can't believe it's almost the end of 2025. But today is going to be fun because when I saw Brooke come through with her form, I was like, yes, we got a hypnotherapist. Nora and I talk about these use cases or there are customers or users that we've had on the show that's like students or clients are hypnotherapists, and they tell us how they love the product, and we're like, finally someone's coming on to share. So Brooke Ansley is here with us today. She is a hypnotherapist, as I mentioned, and she is the creator of Mom Flow Hypno, and we're excited to chat all about hypnotherapy, which is audio. And so we're excited to chat with her about her journey with private podcasting, and then some of her offers and how she's been using them for her particular business. So welcome, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So, we were kind of chit-chatting before we hit record, and we didn't talk about this exactly, but you hinted at a Hello Audio user brought you in and you experienced her product. We often start with how did you find out about private podcasting? And what was that aha moment where you're just like, oh my gosh, why is everything not in audio? Yeah. What did that look like for you?
I had fatigue from all of these video trainings, buying trainings or creating I had a training myself that I had created that was housed on a platform it was delivered via video. And I found that so many of my clients and my students, nobody has time to sit down and watch videos or the attention, or, I know for me, I'm trying to get off of electronics in that way. I don't want to be looking at a screen. And so I actually worked with a coach who was using Hello Audio to deliver a private podcast, and as part of her coaching. And it created this shift in my brain. I'm like, yes, I would listen to her coaching while I was going for a walk, or I'd be biking, exercising. I'd be in the car driving. I live in LA, it's in a lot of traffic, right? So I was able to actually consume the information without having to sit down and look at a screen. And so I actually got through all of her trainings, which I think was a huge turning point for me, because I know, as somebody who's been in the world of these virtual online courses, there's a lot of courses that I've purchased that you get through the first, I think there's some statistic, people only get through 20% of the course on average. Right. And that was the turning point for me. So I fell in love with it. I ended up getting, I have a public podcast, and now I have my private podcast. I've had 2 private podcasts over the years. I know we'll get into that. So I'm a believer.
Yeah. I still, to this day, it's fun creating a product where you solve your own problem. So I'm like, okay, I'm sold. Obviously everyone else is going to be like, yes. And even to this day, I'm like, you realize you should just put everything in audio also for people. Maybe, and I think maybe we haven't converted the people who themselves don't think they would like it. I don't know, because part of me is just how is this not in every single course? Because I was exactly like you, which is why, why the product got created. But yeah, so thanks for sharing that. And I think we're getting to the point where, yes, it's obviously a lot more common, but there's still people that aren't doing it. And I'm just like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? I agree.
What are you doing? Cool. So why don't you give us a little intro about yourself and your business? And so people who are listening can be like, oh yeah, cool. Tell us what you sell. And if you want to hint at a little bit of how that's changed, somewhat recently or something, it's totally fine too.
Yeah. So I am a hypnotherapist for high achieving women, and I help female founders and now new moms, because I'm a new mom myself. So I got a lot of inspiration from going through giving birth and we talked a little bit about that a few minutes ago, Lindsay, I have a 15-month-old now. So I help new moms and female founders rewire subconscious beliefs so they can lead their lives and businesses from a place of calm self-trust and not constantly feel like they're in survival mode. And so I see my clients virtually one-on-one, but now I have created Mom Flow Hypno, which is my private podcast. For a big piece of it is delivering audio for me. I record all of my one-on-one sessions, but I'm shooting off these recordings, and that gets really hard for my clients to like download and save. And how do I get it off of this like device and onto that device so I can listen wherever, whenever I want? And so what's been really cool about creating Mom Flow Hypno is being able to not only reach more women, but I call Mom Flow calm in your pocket. Like you can listen anywhere you want to. It's right there. You can just pull out your phone. I listen to my own hypnosis on Spotify. That's my app of choice. So yeah, that's what I do. And I basically, you know, Mom Flow is just 4 hypnosis tracks. I wanted to keep them really simple, really bite-sized. They're all under 15 minutes. So even if you're just like hiding in the closet and you need some peace, you can pop those headphones in and drop into calm instantly.
Nice. So yeah, I think we should talk next a little bit about kind of the journey for you as it relates to like where private podcasting is used in your business. And you had kind of a different ideal client, and you did like a little bit different of a service, like of an offer. And so I kind of want to hear about that journey of that realization of audio as being like something that made sense for like especially how you deliver, and then how that works with like Mom Flow Hypno and some choices you made along the way.
Yeah. So when I first started out as a hypnotherapist, I was working with a lot of women in their relationship to their bodies and food and weight loss. And so I created a product called Happy Body Blueprint. And it included trainings on how the subconscious mind impacts like how you decide what foods you're going to eat, your relationship to exercise, your emotions, and how those impact your body and your body image. And so I had actually created this 3-month program on Kajabi, and it had video trainings. And then I had like downloads for the hypnosis sessions that go with the video trainings. And I just realized really early on, and I spent so much time making these videos, right? And like trying to get your hair perfect. And nobody cares about your hair, right? It's like you're trying to get the video and the slides and everything perfect. And then I realized that people they were listening to the hypnosis sessions, but they weren't. They were only getting through like the first 3 videos. Nobody was going through the whole course because it's time consuming, and it's, everyone has a million and one other things to do. My clientele, mostly women, a lot of moms, right? They've got shit to do. They don't have time to sit down and watch a video. So at that time, I was introduced to Hello Audio, and I actually started a public podcast, which I called the Happy Body Podcast originally. I went through a rebrand. It's now called the Calm Edge Podcast. So I had the public podcast, and then I decided to, somewhere along the line, I was like, you know what? I want to take Happy Body Blueprint and I want to make it entirely audio so I can actually reach my ideal client. So I actually just took all those video trainings and I dropped them into audio. Like it was as simple as that. And then I basically had 2 private podcast streams. So when someone would join Happy Body Blueprint, they would have the trainings and then they would have the hypnosis tracks. And the reason I did that is because, and I joke about this, but it's so true. Like you do not want to listen to hypnosis while you're driving. I didn't want people to be like, I couldn't mix it all in because I didn't want people to be like listening. That is one thing you don't want to do. I put that caveat on all of my private podcasts that are hypnosis recordings. Don't listen to this while driving, but everything else you
or
can.
Holding a child or like whatever
or
operating
holding
machinery.
Operating heavy machinery. Yeah. Cooking, all this. I mean, you could probably listen cooking. It's probably fine, but so that's kind of where I started. So I had Happy Body Blueprint. That was, I loved having, I realized very quickly that my students were listening more, digesting more. I was hearing from clients about it, that they really loved the podcast platform. So then I went through a transition. I also realized that a lot of my clients that I was helping for weight loss, what we were actually doing was working on emotional regulation and stress management. So while there is the beliefs that come down to like, why do I believe a piece of cake is going to make me happier? What's underneath of that is like my emotional wellness, holistic emotional wellness. And so I realized that was really where my spark was, that I was helping a lot of women with processing their emotions better and calming their body and helping them get in tune with their intuition and reframing anxiety and understanding what's happening in the body with anxiety. And so I started to transition my business and I started working with more female entrepreneurs. And then I had a baby. And after he was born, I went through my own journey, which you and I were kind of just laughing about, with sleep and with having to get sleep whenever I could. And one of the biggest things that I was hearing, you hear from other people, they're like, sleep when the baby sleeps. And you just want to punch them in the face. Right? So, but what is interesting about this is that the one thing that I knew as a hypnotherapist is hypnosis, listening to a 15-minute or 20-minute hypnosis track is actually a form of non-sleep deep rest. So you can actually reset neuromodulators in the brain just by listening, even if you don't actually fall asleep. So it's like you're getting restorative sleep. And so one of the things that I did when I was, freshly postpartum and I was basically up every 45 minutes for several months straight, I would listen to a hypnosis track in the middle of the day as kind of like a nap. Okay, the baby's asleep. I'm just going to listen to this. And maybe it's only these 20 minutes that I rest, but that's going to be enough. And what I found is that I actually would fall asleep and I would get really good sleep. I do think that I was still getting fairly good sleep scores, even though my brain felt like it was tweaking out because I was waking up every 45 minutes, but I would get really good sleep scores because as a hypnotherapist, I'm really good at falling back to sleep. That is something that I gained from hypnotherapy myself and why I became a hypnotherapist, because sleep was never my forte before, but it became my forte and that's why I actually got into this. So long story short, I was like, other women need to know that, when they're having that, I can't fall asleep. I finally have 30 minutes, but my brain is on. How do I relax my brain? So I just got inspired to start a new product, and I came up with Mom Flow Hypno, and there's 4 tracks on there. One of them is called Productive Nap, because I want women to feel like they're being productive when they're resting. Sometimes it's the most productive thing you can do, right?
Yeah.
And also the whole idea of that track is that even if you don't fall asleep, you're still getting the rest that you need. Just laying here with your eyes closed, you're getting the rest that you need. 13 minutes long. And then I also created a track called Calm the Rage, because you know what? Mom rage is a real thing when you haven't slept and you've got, a very, very vocal baby.
Yeah. And then the hormones that just set you off in ways that you just never experienced before prior. Yeah.
Yes. So it's really about self-compassion. So that track is really about, rage is just a sign that a need isn't getting met, and to hold compassion and what's the need? How can I meet that need? And then I create another track called Trust Yourself Mama, which is getting in tune with your intuition. And then there's a little bonus track, which is a breath work, and it's for dropping into creativity. So, and these are all things that I've used in order to access that creative brain to actually transition quickly from mom mode to hypnotherapist mode. Breath work has actually been a huge tool for me. And I love combining breath work and hypnosis into one. And so that's how Mom Flow came to be. Essentially, is something what do I wish that I had when I was going through this? And I just created it. And now it's a private podcast, and I've got my listeners, and I hear from them all the time. It is kind of a funny thing. I think, I hear from moms. I have a huge mom group that I'm in, and they're like, well, I'm just listening to your voice now every night as I fall asleep. That's kind of been a cool thing to hear from people. Oh yeah, my husband also listens to your voice. We're both listening to your voice as I fall. I'm like, great. Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I'd like to hear a little bit about how this fits into kind of what you sell online, because I think people who are listening, even if they're not hypnotherapists, so I definitely think you have some things that you can maybe connect with folks that have a similar, I don't know, type of business, but then maybe just more generally speaking, what are your services that you sell, and how did you see this fitting
into the marketing of it?
Yeah,
really, essentially. Yeah. So I work with clients one-on-one virtually, and I typically work with my clients over a 3-month period. So I have a hypno coaching program called the Calm Edge.
Okay.
And I wanted to create something that was a really like a hell yes, no brainer price point. So it's $37 for Mom Flow Hypno. And essentially what it does is it gives my ideal clients something tangible, something they don't have to think twice about spending on, so that they can even just see what it's like. A lot of people are like, what is hypnotherapy? Like, what is this? Does this work? That's a big, like, is it real? Right.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to give people a taste. And so this has kind of provided a little taste for people to hear my voice and hear, oh, this can actually really help me get calm. And what's happened from that is a lot of those clients have they end up on my email list. They turn into one-on-one clients. It's also great to have a product. I mean, it's a passive income product. It doesn't cost me any money. So it's something I've been working with a lot of partners on. So people that are health coaches or that work with women in fertility or work with postpartum women and like hormone balancing. Those are a lot of my partners. And I offer this free to them. And they've since been sending me like, oh, I have like 5 moms I want you to work with. So that's actually also been a really indirect piece, which I hadn't even thought about. Like I was thinking more about like, let me just get people on my email list, give them a taste of what this is. But I've actually gotten a lot of one-on-one clients just coming in through referrals with my partners as well. The thing that I love about private podcasts is that people really feel like they know you. They hear your voice. And so they're really warm lead by the time they get to you. I mean, that's also something I've seen with my public podcast on Hello Audio. So, I mean, I know we're kind of focusing on private, but also the public podcast. It's like by the time people get on my calendar for a consultation call, they're already sold. So they get on and they're like, I've been listening to your podcast, and, they're pretty much ready to sign up. So that's actually been a huge, huge shift in my business. And I think when I started it, it was within a few months of starting the public podcast, which is what I started before the 2 private, that I started seeing my business really shift into like I wasn't doing as much work to get my clients. Like suddenly they were finding me. And I think that the public and private podcast had a lot to do with that. So that's been really cool. But also just as like I didn't want to, as a hypnotherapist and having like an audio-based product, I knew that there is a better way than sending people downloads, but I didn't want to create an entire app. Like I'm a solopreneur, with the exception of like I hire people for marketing and some other things. But like I'm doing a lot of this on my own right now. And I like creating an app just sounded so overwhelming and such a huge investment. This was like a way to kind of avoid having to do all of that and just deliver my voice. And actually kind of a funny piece to this, Lindsay, that I hadn't mentioned to you before is I used to be a singer-songwriter. I was a country music artist. So I have a few songs out on Spotify and YouTube. They're from another life.
Or we're linking below if you want to.
Different from my hypno life now, which is all about calm and peace. Like those songs are like Whiskey Wednesday and like You Did Me Wrong. But anyway, you can Google those. But I understand, like, I had a self-released EP that I created, I don't know, 8-9 years ago. And so being able to deliver even like my music directly to my people, not having to have a label, right? I like to compare this to like, you used to have to get signed with a label in order to get your music out into the world. Yeah. And so being able to do that through like a platform and just directly access your fans was really a huge shift in for I think a lot of musicians. But I almost equate like Hello Audio to that, but in the podcast realm and having clients. It's like now this gives me a direct connect to my ideal clients all across the world. And it's easy. And it's like the fact that they can just pull up Apple Podcasts or Spotify, like the Spotify player of their choice, and have my voice in their ear, right? And it's what allows Mom Flow Hypno to be like calm in your pocket. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's freaking awesome. I tell everybody about it. I'm an affiliate. Like it's, I have a girlfriend actually who's a podcast through you guys. And every month I get like that affiliate payout. And I'm like, hey, thanks for the coffee. I got you bought me coffee today.
I love this. And like, yeah, it's funny because it's part of me when we were building Hello Audio, it's like, people who have a public podcast get audio, right? And they're like, if you've done it for a while, which, I know isn't a huge, whatever those weird numbers about people who have podcasts get past episode 8 or whatever the weird thing.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do a podcast regularly. But even if you had one for a little while and took a break or something, public podcasters know that audio connection piece. And then you being a musician also, that makes sense. And there's something else going on in the brain that is very different than video. And everyone knows that, right?
Yes.
But what's interesting is we reach a lot of creators who never had a public podcast before. And maybe, I don't know, just never got around to it or don't like the sound of their voice, or there's just different reasons. And so they don't get it. But then once they start and their people are connecting and there is some audio connection, they're like, oh, now I see that piece. So the podcasters are easy for us to convert in some respect. But it's funny because, and I think it's tied to your audience is already listening to you in audio. So of course the call to action, why wouldn't they also want something that's probably audio? Do they need a YouTube channel? It's getting a little messier now with YouTube getting into podcasting. Even still, I think just that option of being able to listen to somebody and that true connection intimacy is irreplaceable.
Yes.
And I think that where we're heading, and everyone's kind of talking about podcasting again, which is interesting, and I guess it's all because of video, which is interesting. But I think the larger thing is I think it's about niche podcast, right? It's not about having a bajillion downloads and getting sponsors. It's about using it as a medium to connect with your people. And so if that translates in the public space, I think it totally translates in the private too, because yes, get those email addresses so you can actually talk to them.
Yes.
And yes, keep it in the medium that they've already agreed to. And so that's one train of thought. This other thing you said about the app, I was thinking about you coming on and I was excited to talk to a hypnotherapist in general. Because part of me is well, obviously Hello Audio makes sense. And you have an audio thing. And I know there's other people too, maybe are meditators, right? And or meditation is a big part of their practices. And so the wellness folks. And I think those folks, while I think everyone should be on Hello Audio, a lot of them are trying these make their own apps or and I think what's interesting about that is, to your point, not only is it a lot of work, it has gotten cheaper, right? You don't have to hire a developer to code an app anymore. And not only that, you could vibe code it. But it's more to me, you hit it when you said they can listen wherever they want to listen. I think downloading an app is an
100%.
Extra layer of not only friction, but just the app's probably not going to be that good because we're not UI, UX designers. We're not going to create the next best player. And so when you think about it like that, why go through that part and why not meet them where they're already at? And so you're now hitting me. I feel like I need to interview you on how do we reach that audience in a better way? Because I think there's something probably really powerful there for us from a expansion, because it just seems such the right people to have on our product.
Well, and also to your point, I hate downloading apps. Anytime someone's download this app, I'm ugh, and I'm constantly deleting apps. And so I won't use it if it's not I won't go to a separate app to, I know there's a lot of community apps now, that you can use for communities. And I don't even love doing that.
Same.
So I think
it's our
that is
elder
a major
side.
piece. Yeah.
Please just keep the top 5 social apps.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So I do think it really does speak to the elder millennial who,
we just have a way of doing the internet that,
Yeah. And isn't there some statistic, you probably would know better than me, Lindsay, about women in their late 30s, early 40s, it's 50% of podcast listeners or something are women.
Oh, I don't know that I knew that.
Essentially female elder millennials. So if those are your people,
they're there.
That's right. And maybe that's specific to my niche or people who are working with that type of client. But that was one of the reasons where I was I want to meet people where they are, because I heard that statistic and I was I better get a podcast.
Yeah. No, that actually tracks. I could see that. Now I'm going to look into it. I always hear that economic one, right? They're economic status or something like that. But I also remember being surprised that Gen Z was actually into podcasting as much as they are. So Anyways, yeah, I think if you're a hypnotherapist or someone who does like meditations or could add that also as a layer to your work, you're kind of showing how that's possible. And like that, a tool like Hello Audio allows you the flexibility to share it. Cause I think of, Insight Timer, right? Like some of those other folks who put their stuff on there, which I get it. It's social and you get popular and you have ratings and all this stuff. But you like don't own those people and you don't really have control over like what that looks like. I see it as a traffic source. And again, I don't know a ton about it, but I see how the overlap in like, that world is kind of like, yeah, what if you owned it? And it totally is like the music industry. Like when you have control over like adding it as an order bump, or I really like what you talked about too, where you said you were surprised when you shared it with partners, collaborations. I think that's what we're going to be doing hugely in 2026 is really sharing each other's audiences as a way to get in front of new folks. And if you have a great gift, like, free thing, that is paid, like that people pay for, but you can offer to people's audiences, like, and it has a result and they're likely to actually download it and do it. That's a great way to grow your business. And so I think as someone listening, even if you're not in meditation, that strategy right there, could be enough for people to be like, oh yeah, like that's how I could see this. And you brought this up earlier too, like a video course or even creating like a PDF or some like workshop that you hosted live that was a recording. There is something a lot easier, I think, that feels to produce an audio piece of content. And so, maybe the takeaway too is make a 3-4 episode thing that provides a lot of value. That is something you can give away as a call to action when you go out and like, do your thing. And think about that, next year in 2026 as a strategy and like a growth like engine, if you will.
Yeah. Actually, one more piece I kind of want to touch on that you had mentioned earlier about like, it kind of jogged something in my head. I think about in the music industry, when you could have that direct connection to your fans, you really only needed 100 dedicated fans. So it's to that like niche point, right? If you've got 100 dedicated fans and they're buying your music, then that's like that's an entire income stream right there.
Yep.
And so when you think about niching down, if you have 100 people on your email list or 500 people or 1,000 people, maybe and that's it, right? Not that's it. That's 1,000 people is a great number.
It's a lot.
Where you're at. So having the private podcast gives you something to not just even like a low price point you could sell to them. It's an income stream, but also, and as a membership, right? But it's also just a way to engage those people.
Yes.
So you turn that audience into an income stream, essentially.
Yes.
And, something I've been thinking about is my next product is going to be more of a membership style. So a monthly membership that's going to be geared towards female entrepreneurs, because that's a majority of my email list. And just really working with that and speaking to those people. I'm just speaking directly to those people. And in terms of like, if you're thinking about doing this, but you're like, I don't know if I can do it. One of the biggest things that really helped me get started was not trying to make it perfect. And that's like the really nice thing about audio is, well, first of all, you don't have to worry about what you look like, right? And I keep it so simple. I mean, I know we're on Riverside right now, but I record in Zoom, like I just hop on Zoom and I interview my guests that way, or I record on Zoom and just save that. And that's what I use for Hello Audio. And people feel more connected to you when it's not perfect.
Agreed.
So if you're feeling like it's something that's overwhelming and I don't know if I can do that, it doesn't have to be perfect. And you don't have to be like, you're not competing with like these major podcasters that have been around for a long time. You're just speaking to your people. So that's like the one thing I'd share. And I think that really helped me get started because it seemed like overwhelming at first, but realizing that I could just talk and I could just be me and I can make mistakes and I can fumble over my words and and that's okay. That's going to speak to people.
Like we hear a lot too, like there's people that are scared to start a public podcast because they're like, oh, I'm just going to, solo or even interviewing. I don't know what, I can't, I'm not good at scripting things or whatever. But a private podcast, there's something about like, oh, okay, well, like it's not going to be out to like everyone, as if like, a podcast that you release is going to be out to all these
a little
people.
more,
but like it feels more public, right? And so there's something about the word private and like recognizing that like, oh, it's for these people who like really want to be here, and like they raise their hand and say, I want to listen to you, and there's comfort in that.
And if you talk to them like you're sending them a voice note. I don't know about you, but I do a lot of voice noting. And now I just sometimes when I'm, when I send voice notes to a girlfriend, I'm like, actually, I'm just going to save that and upload that to Hello Audio.
Right.
And the podcast episode done.
Yeah. And that's like a mainstream way of saying, right? Oh, I'm gonna leave you a private podcast like in your like Boxer or whatever. That's a common saying now. Yeah. I totally agree. And I think when you're talking to your specific person, they love that, because I think we've seen a lot of our users have success with things like that are very like what behind the scenes or something that I don't share on my public show or on my YouTube channel or whatever. It's this very like intimate. And I think for the creator, because I think, you as a hypnotherapist know too, right? Like it's like the energy you bring to it feels like warmer and like, I just have this little mic and I'm just going to talk to you. And like, I'm talking to my friends and like, I'm leaving a voice note. And that ends up translating in a way like nervous system wise and all that stuff where the person listening like feels that real connection. And I think in the age of AI and all this stuff where people are getting their scripts bulleted, I'm not like against that, but it's like you can feel that energy when it feels like that versus like, oh, I'm just sharing what's on my heart, which there are spaces for both where I'm not saying that, but that's what I think by making something feel exclusive or private or secret, that energy that the creator comes to it. And then the receiving listener is like, oh, like she's sharing this with me, right? And like, and because it's audio, it feels different. So anyways, as we're sitting here, like we are selling ourselves on the thing that we totally, but yes, all of that.
And also, if you're thinking about making a new lead magnet in 2026, please don't make another PDF. Like
totally.
Right? Like, if you are a meditation teacher or a coach or breathwork coach, or even just like, or you do what I do, you're a hypnotherapist, having just one single download that is no longer a download, but is now a private podcast, even just having that and letting it be free is an incredible lead magnet. I mean, it's people are like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Like I can get a free guided breath work like for free. Sure. I'll jump on that. I can listen to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Okay. Yeah. Like take my email. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, I very rarely ever download a free, what do they call it? A lead magnet. Mom brain. My words are not coming out. The lead magnet, if it's a PDF or even a video these days. I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
So it's so simple. Just make one audio recording and make it a private podcast and you're done. That's it. 2026 plan. It's finished.
Boom. Decided here. Brooke gave it to you real right there. Yes. Well, this has been very fun. I checked the box. We had a hypnotherapist on.
I'm so glad I could be that for you.
Yeah, you are that for us. And Brooke was also sharing, she like, when we first came, so this is 2 years in the making, because as you heard, she had a kid in there and like, I know how that goes. She was like wanting to be a case study early on. So we could have had you early, but you know, children.
It took this long to get on here because of
it does. And it sounds like you have a lot of new private podcast ideas and stuff up and coming. So we'll definitely have you back on. So please go out and be successful, and everyone go listen to her Mom Flow podcast, because I think I need it actually.
Yes, you do.
As we're talking,
we were talking about babies in sleep before we started recording.
Yeah,
so Lindsay, I'm going to send you. You can be a partner. I'll send you the free.
And we'll definitely link it below for you guys to check out as well. Oh, we do have our final question that Nora and I like to ask. If you had a private podcast of your life's musings, what would it be called?
Of my life's musings?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. My life's musings. This is a very hard question. I'm thinking about when I send voice notes, what am I talking about?
I mean, it could just be like voice notes from Brooke or something like that. Like,
yeah, I think
cutesy.
voice notes from Brooke, because my voice has always been my instrument as a singer and now as a hypnotherapist. And I think that's always been something, even when I was young, my voice has been calming to people. And so voice notes from Brooke. Maybe I'll have to rebrand my podcast.
There you go.
Name.
Or a side podcast.
Yes, that's right. Another one, another private podcast.
Just why not? Add it to the list. Well, thanks, Brooke, for coming on, and we'll see you around.
All right.
Take care.